Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. As we move through Lent this week, we are exploring the theme of brokenness. We are talking about how the world is broken, and even more about our own brokenness. We are talking about how much we need a Savior. It's not fair. Maybe you remember saying something like that as a child. Perhaps in school, or some other kids were misbehaving and the whole class got punished. Perhaps you had plans to do something exciting with your family, but that sudden emergency came up at work. Maybe somebody got something good when you were the one who really deserved it. Maybe even now you grumble about the price at the pump and blame it on a war halfway around the globe. Maybe you said it as a child. Maybe as adults we still feel it sometimes. We hate injustice. We hate it when things seem unfair. In fact, our sense of fairness is one of our most developed senses. And if something isn't fair, we know it right away and we complain about it right away. I'll even say this. As much as we appreciate it and as much as we need it, sometimes we even have a problem with God's grace because it just seems so unfair. God has grace for people who we sometimes believe don't deserve it, which is, of course, just the point. Maybe it's our sense of outrage at injustice that makes Good Friday so troubling. The story is filled with injustice after injustice. The betrayal by Judas, the denial by Peter, the legal injustices done to Jesus by the Jewish leaders and Pilate, all of it seems so unfair, so wrong. His trial was a sham, the witnesses couldn't agree, and only Jesus' claim to be divine gave them the charges they needed. But that it's only blasphemy if it isn't true. So even that charge doesn't stick. Jesus was not guilty of any crime, much less a crime deserving death. He was not guilty of any false teaching. He was not guilty of blasphemy. He was not guilty of anything. Yet he was condemned. Injustice. And Pilate, at least twice Pilate says that Jesus had done nothing wrong. Justice would demand his release. But in the end, Pilate caved to the pressure. Injustice. So maybe it's not really about justice at all. Maybe it really is about grace. What's not fair to Jesus is truly good for us. That's why we call it Good Friday. As St. Paul said, God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. The truth is there. Jesus took the world's sins onto himself. That's the astounding wonder of Good Friday. That's the heart of the gospel. As we draw near to Easter, the injustice of the cross is plain to see, but so is the restoration, so is the grace, so is the love. By his stripes we are healed. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.